Why do we consider Hasaranga someone with baffling talent? Is it just his LPL seasons? Besides sporadic international performances, I've never been convinced of his batsmanship. That's exactly what we're talking about, Dylan. If you just listen to, I know you basically set that question as Dominic was talking about it, but I think it's just feeling that my understanding is, obviously I wasn't watching him when he was at school, but I think he scored a lot of runs at school. He scored a lot of runs domestically in LPL and other tournaments that have happened in Sri Lanka. There has been moments when he's looked like he's going to pick up runs. He scored runs in the Asia Cup final when we won it, didn't he?
Yeah.
It's just he's been so inconsistent, hasn't he? Nick, you're somebody who follows West Indian cricket quite closely. It's Sri Lanka's not just the only cricketing island that you follow. Is there kind of parallels between someone like Sunil Narayan's career in terms of the way Hasaranga's trajectory is kind of panning out at this point?
Yeah, I guess you could see a kind of similarity there between Hasaranga and Narayan, a kind of boom or bust thing. I think the difference is that Narayan's move to the top of the order came kind of later in his career, right? It was a bit of a surprise to everyone. Whereas Hasaranga was kind of billed as a batting all-rounder who then has more taken that Adil Rashid trajectory, right? A guy who's gone from kind of all-rounder to increasingly being pegged as a bowler. This is probably going to strike controversially, but I actually think Hasaranga's got more batting talent than Narayan. I don't think that you dominate the LPL that way that he did in 2023. I was just looking it up. 279 runs in 9 innings, striking 190. I also remember early in his international career, I think we're going back to 2020, I saw him play 2 really good innings in a series against West Indies, one at the SSC where he kind of ticked sensibly Sri Lanka over the line. And then I remember at Asagiri, he played a shot which was kind of like nothing I've ever seen. It's so like I almost think I've made it up, but he kind of turned to square leg and played a straight drive. I think he's got bags of talent. But you look at his returns in the IPL now, 19 innings, 81 runs, a high score of 18, a strike rate of 92, and like that's not inconsistent. That's just consistently shit. And like I have to think that I agree with what Dom's saying. He's not got easy role to play, but I feel like he's kind of like in his own head a bit maybe about it at this stage. And like I see the rest of the world, I see pundits regularly saying like, why have they promoted to Hasaranga to bat at 5? This guy can't bat. And I just don't think that's true. I really, really believe that he's got bags and bags of talent. I don't think you get Rahul Dravid and Kumar Sangakkara saying go and bat middle order in an IPL game if you're not talented. And I just think that we haven't seen it in the middle. I mean, we saw something, am I right, it's kind of similar in the T20 World Cup where he got a lot of low ones. Did he get a couple of first ballers? And
he got two first ball ducks, I think, in those against
2 goldies, and he seems to it seems to be a recurring theme, and I wonder if he just needs to give himself a bit more of a chance. You can be 7 off 7 or 10 off 10 and still make a real impactful contribution. It doesn't necessarily have to be 6 from ball 1.
Yeah. Picking and choosing your spots, I think, is something he kind of has to learn, right? It's one speed, which is great, but when at the highest level, one speed isn't always going to win you the matches. I'll add one thing before we move on from Hasaranga. I want to point out his bowling's been pretty good, not great, but I think there is still one big issue. I think he still struggles very much against left-handers, and that's something he's going to have to figure out going forward if he wants to be consistently picked in the IPL. Obviously, we know how good he is against right-handers, but handling left-handers is something that he's going to have to show consistent progress with. It's interesting because, and I've seen this suggested, he's been bowling primarily over the wicket. I think trying around the wicket could be actually quite useful for him, but he hasn't really tried that ploy.
I think you this Rajasthan team is kind of imbalanced, and you can kind of when you watch them, you can see why their squad hasn't gone anywhere. I kind of wonder, like, actually, I mean, I just want all the striker players to do as well as they possibly can and to win every game and to get player of the match and score all the runs, get all the wickets. I wonder if, though, I've just got to personally reconsider how I feel about Hasaranga. And yeah, he is a brilliant cricketer, but he's not going to be a guy, or it doesn't feel like he's going to be a guy that is actually going to win us major tournaments and World Cups. He's just going to consistently pick up 2 or 3 wickets every game, maybe go for a bit of runs with it, and potentially come up and score some runs as well every now and again. Kind of, at this stage, it feels like it averages once or twice a calendar year. If we can get him to a stage where he scores runs once or twice a series, then we're kind of doing all right with it, I think. I also wonder, when you look around, about how much talent's coming through in Sri Lankan cricket, you're like, unless he starts to show to improve consistently, he'll lose his place. You look at we haven't even talked about Deekshana or Patarana yet, but you're like, I'm already thinking about next year, will they retain him? If they don't retain him, will he get picked up by another side? Because for all the reasons that we've all just talked about, right? I think he came in with a lot of promise. I think he kind of consistently was improving until about 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Given him the captaincy now, in hindsight, I mean, as much, there's a bit of me that kind of feels I'd like to see the continuation of the Hasaranga Matthews kind of captaincy double act, because it kind of fell apart quite dramatically at the World Cup, but my gosh, was it fun. And it was total aggression, full throttle. But I wonder if that has just seriously knocked his confidence in a kind of much more deeper way than we imagined, because I don't think he's basically not scored a run since then, right? But nobody wants to see him succeed more than I do. Right, I'd love that. I'd love him to be the marauding cricketer at the forefront of it. And really, I'm having these conversations publicly because I want to kind of ignite that spark within him. Because I think the one thing we do know from watching his time as captain is that he's incredibly competitive, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think you're right to touch on expectation, Marky. I think that part of the reason that we're having this conversation is because we've had such high hopes for where his career was going to go from the start of it, right? And it seems like a very long time ago that he had that season at RCB where he took a bag full of wickets. I think it's also maybe worth saying that RR, they've had a crap season and their batting has been hit and miss, but they've lost a lot of really close games. And, maybe if they win some of those games, they've thrown away chases. If some of those go differently, maybe we look slightly differently at Hasaranga and Theeks's contributions. But it's interesting. I think at this stage, if I was building an IPL squad and you gave me a choice between Wani or Theeks, I'd probably go Theeks. And I don't think I would have said that 18 months or 2 years ago.